The rain drummed against the windows of my Brighton hotel room as I sipped my morning tea, watching the gray waves crash against the pebbled shore. It was supposed to be a peaceful Tuesday morning, day 3 of my long-overdue holiday. After 18 months of 14-hour days building up Sterling and Associates' digital transformation practice, I'd finally taken Marcus's advice to bloody well take a break. I should have known something was wrong when my mobile rang at 8:47 a.m. Marcus Sterling never called anyone before 10 a.m. unless someone was dying or the company was burning down. "Sarah, we need to talk." His voice was clipped professional. None of the usual warmth that had made me believe we were more than just boss and employee, that we were building something together. "Marcus, is everything all right? I'm not supposed to be back until—" "I know when you're supposed to be back." The coldness in his tone made my stomach drop, but circumstances have changed. We're restructuring the digital practice. Your position is being eliminated. I set down my teacup with trembling hands. The view of the pier suddenly felt distant, unreal. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your final pay will be processed by Friday. Security will collect your belongings. I'll need your laptop and company mobile returned by—" "Marcus, wait." My voice cracked. "What about the Henderson Group project? The Morrison deal? I've been working on those for months. The presentations are next week. Those will be reassigned. James will be taking over your client portfolio." James, 28 years old, fresh from Oxford, with family connections that opened doors I'd had to kick down. The same James who joined the company 6 months ago and somehow managed to get invited to every client dinner I'd been excluded from. "This is about the partnership discussion, isn't it?" I stood up, pacing to the window. "Because I asked about the promotion timeline." "Sarah, this is a business decision. Nothing more." But I heard it in his voice, the defensiveness, the guilt. 3 weeks ago, I'd finally worked up the courage to ask about the senior partner position I'd been promised when I'd joined Sterling and Associates. Marcus had given me vague answers about timing and market conditions. Now I understood why. "I've brought in over $2 million in new business this year alone," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The Blackstone contract, the Meridian project. And we appreciate your contributions. But the market is changing, Sarah. We need fresh perspectives. Fresh perspectives. Male perspectives with the right surname and university connections." After he hung up, I sat in stunned silence, watching tourists brave the October drizzle below. 18 months of my life. 18 months of believing that talent and hard work would be enough. That proving myself in a male-dominated consultancy would eventually pay off. My phone buzzed with a text from my assistant Jenny. "So sorry, Sarah. They've already changed the locks on your office. Your plants are at reception." I almost laughed. After everything, I was worried about my plants. But then I remembered the 3 calls I'd received over the past week. 3 calls I'd taken quietly, stepping out of meetings, keeping my voice low. 3 opportunities that Marcus knew nothing about. David Chen from Pinnacle Holdings had called on Thursday. "Sarah, your reputation precedes you. We've been following your work on digital transformation. We'd like to discuss a significant project." Emma Rodriguez from Meridian Capital had reached out on Friday. "We've heard you're the one who actually delivers results, not just presentations. We're looking for someone to spearhead our technology integration." And then there was Robert Ashworth from Blackstone Ventures, the same Blackstone that was currently paying Sterling and Associates a fortune for my expertise. He called on Saturday. "Between you and me, Sarah, we'd rather work directly with you. These middleman consultancies are bleeding us dry." I'd been polite, professional, told them I'd need to think about it. But the truth was, I'd been more than thinking. I'd been quietly researching, planning, dreaming of a future where I wouldn't have to smile politely while men like Marcus patted me on the head and told me to be patient. As I stared out at the stormy sea, I realized that Marcus Sterling had just made the biggest mistake of his career. He'd cut me loose at the exact moment I had 3 millionaire clients ready to sign contracts worth more than his entire firm made in a year. I opened my laptop and began typing an email to David Chen, then Emma Rodriguez, then Robert Ashworth. The holiday was over, but my real career was just beginning. The train back to London felt like a countdown to war. Every mile of countryside that blurred past my window was another minute to plan my next move. By the time we pulled into Victoria Station, I had a strategy. My flat in Clapham had never felt more like a sanctuary. I'd moved here 2 years ago, choosing it over a place in Kensington because I'd rather have space to think than a postcode to impress. Now, as I spread my laptop, notebooks, and 3 years' worth of business cards across my kitchen table, I was grateful for the room to breathe. The first call came within an hour of my email to David Chun. "Sarah, I was hoping you'd reach out." His voice carried the confidence of someone who'd built a property empire from nothing. "I'll be direct. We were working with Sterling and Associates because they promised us you. If you're no longer there, neither are we." I felt a thrill of vindication mixed with terror. "David, I appreciate the confidence, but I need to be transparent. I was let go this morning. I don't have a company, an office, or even business cards. But you have your brain, your experience, and your reputation. That's what we're paying for." I could hear him shuffling papers. "We've got a £50 million digital transformation project that needs someone who understands both technology and human psychology. You're the only consultant we've met who gets that this isn't just about systems, it's about changing how people work." £50 million. I'd never handled a project that large on my own. "When would you need to start?" "Yesterday. But I understand you'll need time to sort out the legalities. My assistant will send you a preliminary contract. We're willing to pay your day rate plus 30% premium for exclusive access." After he hung up, I sat staring at my phone, my hand shaking slightly. Emma Rodriguez called 20 minutes later. "Sarah, darling, I heard through the grapevine that you've had a liberation from Sterling and Associates." Emma's laugh was sharp, knowing. "Honestly, I've been waiting for this call. We've been looking for someone to handle our merger integration. 2 companies, completely different cultures, and a board that thinks technology is magic. What kind of timeline are we looking at? 6 months, maybe 8. 28 million budget. But here's the thing. We need someone who can work with our existing team, not replace them. Marcus pitched us some elaborate restructuring plan that would have gutted half our workforce. We don't want consultants who see people as expendable." I thought about James, about his clinical approach to efficiency optimization, about Marcus's tendency to recommend whatever solution required the most billable hours. "That's exactly why I left," I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. "I thought so. Sarah, I'm going to be frank with you. We've worked with Sterling and Associates on smaller projects. They're competent, but they lack vision. They execute other people's ideas. You create solutions." The third call came just as I was heating up a ready meal, too nervous to properly cook. Robert Ashworth's voice was gravelly, tired. "Sarah, I'll cut to the chase. We're paying Sterling and Associates a fortune to implement your recommendations. But every time we have a meeting, they send us that young man, James, who clearly doesn't understand the intricacies of what you designed." "James is very capable," I said diplomatically, though the words tasted bitter. "Maybe. But he's not you. And frankly, we're tired of paying premium rates for junior execution. We want to work with you directly. What are you proposing?" "We'll terminate our contract with Sterling and Associates and sign directly with you. 35 million over 18 months for complete digital infrastructure overhaul, plus performance bonuses if you deliver ahead of schedule." I nearly dropped my phone. "Robert, that's a significant commitment. We're a significant company. Sarah, I've been in business for 30 years. I know talent when I see it. The question is, do you have the courage to bet on yourself?" After the call ended, I walked to my window, looking out at the London skyline. The city lights twinkled like promises, each one representing someone's dreams, someone's ambitions. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably having dinner, unaware that his biggest clients were about to disappear. I spent the evening researching business registration, liability insurance, and contract law. By midnight, I had a company name, Hartwell Digital Solutions. By 2 a.m., I had a basic website and a business bank account application. But as I finally crawled into bed, the reality hit me. I was 36 years old, starting completely over. No steady salary, no office, no team. Just my reputation and 3 clients who believed in me more than my former boss ever had. The scary part wasn't the risk. The scary part was how alive I felt. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was building a multi-million-pound consultancy from the same kitchen table where I'd eaten cereal and cried over Marcus's rejection letters in my 20s. But there's something powerful about starting from nothing when you're not nothing yourself. The first challenge came within a week. David Chun needed a proposal for his board meeting. Emma Rodriguez wanted a detailed timeline for the merger, and Robert Ashworth's lawyers needed insurance documentation I didn't have yet. I was one person trying to deliver what Sterling and Associates did with a team of 15. That's when I remembered why I'd survived 18 months in Marcus's firm while others had burned out. I'd never been just a consultant. I'd been a translator, a therapist, a strategist, and a project manager rolled into one. The difference was that now I didn't have to pretend someone else was the expert. I called my old university friend Jessica, who'd left corporate law to start her own practice. Jess, I need help navigating contracts, and I need someone who understands that I'm not just another consultant with a laptop. Sarah, I've been waiting for you to call. I heard what happened through the legal grapevine. Marcus Sterling is an idiot. She paused. But you know that starting your own firm means you can't just be good at the work anymore. You have to be good at running a business. She was right. Within 2 weeks, I had a proper office lease in Shoreditch, nothing fancy, but professional enough for client meetings. I hired Jenny, my former assistant, who'd handed in her notice at Sterling and Associates the day after I was fired. If they can treat you like that, she'd said, what hope do the rest of us have? The real test came when I had to present to David Chen's board. Pinnacle Holdings occupied 3 floors of a glass tower in Canary Wharf, the kind of place where even the receptionists wore suits that cost more than my monthly rent. As I walked into the boardroom, I felt like I was about to sit an exam I'd forgotten to study for. Gentlemen, this is Sarah Hartwell, David announced to the 12 men around the table. She's the consultant who'll be leading our digital transformation. One of the board members, gray-haired, expensive watch, the kind of man who'd probably known Marcus socially, leaned forward. Ms. Hartwell, we were under the impression we were working with Sterling and Associates. What happened to that arrangement? The room went quiet. I could feel them evaluating me, wondering if I was competent enough to handle their £50 million project, or if I was just another corporate casualty trying to make it on my own. Sterling and Associates and I parted ways, I said, keeping my voice steady. But I think you'll find that presents an opportunity rather than a problem. I opened my laptop and began my presentation. Not the generic slides that Marcus would have used, but something I'd built specifically for Pinnacle Holdings. I'd researched their company culture, their pain points, their previous failed attempts at digital transformation. I'd spoken to their middle management, their IT team, their customer service department. Most consultancies will tell you that digital transformation is about technology, I began. But your real challenge isn't technical, it's cultural. You have brilliant people who've been doing things the same way for 20 years. They're not resistant to change because they're stubborn. They're resistant because no one has shown them how the change will make their lives better. I clicked to the next slide, showing them a map of their current processes. This is what your workflow actually looks like, not what your org chart says it should look like. And this is where the technology needs to integrate. By the time I finished, the skeptical board member was leaning back in his chair, nodding. Ms. Hartwell, this is the first time a consultant has presented solutions instead of problems. When can you start? The contract was signed within a week. But the real victory came the following Monday when Jenny handed me a newspaper clipping. The Financial Times business section, Sterling and Associates loses major clients in executive shakeup. The article was brief, but it mentioned that 3 significant clients had terminated their contracts following the departure of a senior consultant. It didn't name me, but it didn't need to. The business world is smaller than people think, and word travels fast. Marcus called that afternoon. I almost didn't answer. Sarah, I think we may have been hasty. Perhaps we could discuss bringing you back in a consulting capacity. I was standing in my new office, looking out at the London skyline, feeling more confident than I had in years. Marcus, I appreciate the call, but I'm rather busy with my own clients these days. Your own clients? Yes. It's remarkable how many companies prefer to work directly with the person who'll actually be doing the work. There was a long pause. I see. Well, if you change your mind. I won't. I hung up and turned to Jenny, who was trying not to smile. But do me a favor. If he calls again, tell him I'm in a meeting with a millionaire client. Because I would be. I had 3 of them now, and word was spreading that there was a new player in town, someone who delivered results instead of excuses. 6 months later, I was standing in the same Brighton hotel room where my old life had ended, but this time I was here by choice. The storm outside was just as fierce, but I wasn't the same woman who'd taken that devastating call from Marcus Sterling. The transformation had been gradual, then sudden. David Chen's project had finished 2 weeks ahead of schedule, saving Pinnacle Holdings £8 million in operational costs. Emma Rodriguez had been so impressed with the merger integration that she'd recommended me to 3 other companies. Robert Ashworth's infrastructure overhaul had been so successful that Blackstone Ventures had offered me a retainer worth more than my entire previous annual salary. But the real victory wasn't financial, it was personal. I'd just come from an industry conference in Brighton where I'd been the keynote speaker. The topic: independent consulting, building trust in a corporate world. The audience had been filled with executives, entrepreneurs, and consultants, including several faces I recognized from my Sterling and Associates days. James had been there, sitting in the 3rd row with a notebook, trying to look interested while clearly struggling to understand the concepts I was presenting. He'd approached me afterward, that familiar patronizing smile on his face. "Sarah, brilliant presentation. I'm sure Marcus would be proud." "I'm sure he would," I'd replied, handing him my business card. "If you ever decide you want to work for a company that values substance over connections, give me a call." The real moment of vindication had come during the Q&A session. A woman in her early 30s had raised her hand. "Ms. Hartwell, how do you handle clients who want to work with your company but specifically request a male consultant?" The question had hit me like a physical blow, bringing back memories of every meeting where I'd been introduced as Marcus's assistant, every client dinner I'd been excluded from, every promotion I'd been told to wait for. "I tell them they're welcome to work with someone else," I'd answered, my voice steady. "I've learned that clients who can't see past gender to recognize expertise aren't clients worth having. The companies that work with me do so because they want results, not because they want to feel comfortable with outdated assumptions." The applause had been thunderous, but more importantly, 3 women had approached me afterward with stories of their own struggles in male-dominated industries. 2 of them had asked about job opportunities. Now, as I packed my laptop and prepared to return to London, I reflected on how completely my life had changed. Hartwell Digital Solutions now employed 8 people, including 3 women I'd hired specifically because they'd been overlooked by traditional consultancies. We'd handled 12 major projects with a client satisfaction rate of 98% and a profit margin that would have made Marcus weep with envy. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenny. "Daily Mail business section wants to interview you about women in consulting." Also, Marcus called. Again. I smiled, remembering the scared woman who'd taken his call 6 months ago. Marcus had been calling regularly, initially with condescending offers to help me, then with increasingly desperate requests for me to refer overflow work to Sterling and Associates. The industry gossip was that they'd lost 3 more major clients who'd specifically requested to work with me instead. But the sweetest vindication had come just last week. Emma Rodriguez had called with an unusual request. "Sarah, I need a favor. My daughter is finishing her MBA and wants to go into consulting. She's brilliant, but she's getting the runaround from the big firms. They keep telling her she needs more experience, but won't give her the chance to get it. Send me her CV," I'd said immediately. "If she's half as sharp as her mother, she'll fit right in. There's one more thing. Sterling and Associates offered her a position. She turned them down and told them she'd rather work for a company that promotes women instead of just talking about diversity." That evening, I called my parents for the first time in months. They'd been worried about my decision to leave Sterling and Associates, concerned about financial security and stability. My father, ever practical, had asked if I was sure I knew what I was doing. "Dad, I'm earning 3 times what Marcus was paying me. I have a waiting list of clients, and I wake up every morning excited to go to work. I think I know what I'm doing." "I'm proud of you, love," my mother had said, and I'd heard the surprise in her voice. "But I always knew you were stronger than you thought." As I drove back to London, I thought about strength. For years, I'd thought strength meant enduring, accepting, waiting for someone else to recognize my worth. But real strength, I'd learned, was recognizing my own worth and refusing to accept less than I deserved. My phone rang as I reached the outskirts of London. Jessica's name appeared on the screen. Sarah, I've got news. 3 more consulting firms have approached me about partnership opportunities. And there's something else. Sterling and Associates wants to sell. Word is they're struggling after losing so many clients. I pulled into a service station, my heart pounding. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? I'm suggesting that sometimes the best revenge is buying out the company that fired you. I laughed, loud and genuine. 6 months ago, I'd been a fired consultant with a laptop and a dream. Now I was in a position to buy the company that had dismissed me. But as I sat in my car, watching the London traffic stream past, I realized I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted something better, to build something that would outlast Marcus Sterling's narrow vision, something that would prove that talent and integrity could triumph over politics and prejudice. I called David Chin. David, I've got a proposition for you. How would you feel about investing in a consulting firm that's about to expand significantly? By the time I reached my office, I had 3 potential investors and a plan to triple my company's size within a year. Marcus Sterling had fired me because he thought I was a threat to his established order. He'd been absolutely right. The difference was, I wasn't threatening to tear down his world anymore. I was building a better one.